Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Okay, so something about an intro right here. I'm thinking, thinking. So it's gonna be about Mel. Um, I'm kind of new to TCG games. I think I started playing like a year ago. I think about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, playing One Piece. I played Blackbeard in One Piece, which required a lot of just drawing and like finding answers, having a lot of stalling, having a big trash. Your win con kind of changed from like game to game, in my opinion. But being newer to TCGs, it's really hard to find resources on like getting better and how to review and look at things and like how to deck build. And the biggest advice that I'm always given is just go and look at what did really well. Look at like the best deck that's performing and play it and like play to the curve. Like so, I just don't want to play mid-range Master Yi. It just feels boring. It would make me not like the game. I have this concept of like I really like thinking deeply. I do a lot of philosophy, going to school for that as well as computer science. So I do like thinking deeply. But when you try to do that in a TCG game, it's a very unique aspect. And I feel like a lot of people don't get that. And I find it fascinating that essentially each turn and each state of the game is kind of like a problem that you're meant to solve. And those problems generally aren't deterministic, at least in the sense of there is occasions where something might happen and you have to think about something that might happen given the knowledge that you have. And the reason I say it's not deterministic is you don't have full knowledge of everything. You don't have knowledge of their hand fully. You don't have knowledge of what's coming up in the next card in their deck, so on and so forth. And you don't know if they're going to play exactly how you think they're going to play. So I think TCG games are very uh, mentally stimulating for me. I actually just mentally get tired after I play a lot of games, especially with decks that make you think. And so I think Mel is one of those decks. In terms of the legend ability, underwhelming. There's a few problems with the legend ability, and it makes it makes some limits to it. She's in a really good color combination and she uses the new empower mechanic, but in order to get her benefit, which is essentially a -2 at slow speed, it's a -2 at slow speed, and it's also always going to be once a turn. Always. I mean, not always, but generally in almost every single case, you're only going to tap this once and you have to disempower. And I don't see a case where you are doing a -1 at slow speed, getting something to restand your leader, unless it's like on conquer, and then empowering something again. It's a very niche thing. Like you can do it and it can be a potential thing, but like you would never account for that. So it's a -2 at slow speed, and you can only do it once a turn, and it requires you to empower something. And oh, my handwriting sucks. But the problem is then power cards aren't easy to get off. The only ones that are really easy to get off are the gears. Like you can drop the 2 cost gear into the 3 cost gear, and then you can kind of have like an engine where you're repeatedly empowering, sort of. But you also it also costs like one. It costs one energy, so I'll get into that later because there's potential ways to like play the deck. But in terms of the legend, just not good. There's a lot of weaknesses, which is the requirements, the fact that it's slow speed, the fact that you tap, and you have to the fact that you tap uh, makes it really bad as a legend ability. However, there are a lot of strengths. Like the strengths is you're given this, and I'm new to TCG games. When people say the leader ability is bad, they're essentially saying in terms of flexibility and doing what the deck wants to do, it falls short. And that took a long time to learn, and people don't really communicate that clearly. The reason that Mel's legend is weak is that you are essentially being told build to empower, but also build to minus. So like the identities allegedly is like I'll just do E for empower and then doing minus cost. Now her legend abilities, one of them, the blue one does both of these. So like blue does both. It's a two. It does both of these. It's a very good card. I think it's like the pivot, like it's required in the deck at least for the way I'm gonna play it. And then the purple one does one of these, which is the empower. But its other side effect is you banish something. I think the purple one's way weaker, but it's useful, and I can get into that later. But the reason that she's weak is that the requirements are just way too much. Unless you have the 2 and 3 out and you're repeatedly doing it, then in some case, like, yeah, it's good, but like, what's the game plan after that? Because you're supposed to be minusing. Are you minusing to go in and like break battlefields? Are you minusing to go in and like kill something with like kill spells? So there's like two approaches really to go through the minusing. And with the empowering, there is more, there's like a mid-range approach and like a spell slinger approach, and I think both are kind of the same. Where with the mid range control type approach, you're generally going to be focused on breaking battlefields and bouncing, double B. Wow. But with the spell slinger approach, you're really just focused on empowering and then throwing spells by minusing things and then killing them and controlling that way. So I think those are like kind of the two approach. I could be wrong. This is just my thoughts. I'm really just recording the video to give my thoughts, but I think the legend, not very good. Well, I think it has its strengths, but it has a lot of glaring weaknesses. And the problem is that since it's at slow speed, a lot of your things are going to be choreographed. So like you're doing a bunch of math to essentially figure out the board state. You're solving a problem, and they kind of know that. The only thing that really throws stuff off is the fact that like for example, when you go, oh whoa, you can make that even smaller. Holy crap. When you go and you do something like, oh, look at, there's my Mel. I dropped my Mel. It's a turn two play, so you can get it on turn two no matter what. You go down one power. I don't think it's a huge deal that you go down one power. You go down one power, you draw one, and it's on the board. It's a 4 cost. I played set before, so I'd say the biggest problem that I'd ever say with playing a Mel on turn two is that if they know that your game plan is like essentially playing Mel on turn two and then trying to get her to the empowered state into decks that don't bounce that have like kill spells, they'll just kill it. And you have to be careful. So like if you're going against yellow, you have to kind of be aware of like Cold a Week. Call the Week is a killer, and I play. I mean, probably inefficient, but like playing a one of this blue one, and I don't currently have something to take it out of the trash. Usually, I run stuff that takes it out of the trash, but I don't know what to remove yet. But having a one of this, Call the Weakiness, it's dead. But typically, you should have a 2 drop, and if you're going against, say, if you're going against, say, like yellow, you should really ensure you're getting your 2 drop out and then not letting your 2 drop die. So there's always different ways to play it, but maybe that's just how you're supposed to play the game anyways. I learned that very quickly when playing against Victor is that do not, even if you don't have a play, are you going to risk dropping your set, right? Like, do you risk dropping your set with no play and then getting Call of the Week and then your set's dead and it's the yellow set? So like that's it. You got one of them. It's done. So always watch out for Call of the Week. This is a 4 cost. You have Falling Star, Void Seeker if it's on a battlefield, which it shouldn't be. Bounce spells, it'll like bring you back in tempo. I get what the word tempo means. I don't really like it, but it'll bring you back in tempo because you essentially pay for one power, you drop it, I mean, if they bounce it though, like realistically, they're playing three in one power and they're kind of spending a lot. So like they're not going neutral. They're still like putting you back, but it's they're still putting you back, and it's something to watch out for. It's like if they dedicate that much for the Mel, then whatever. But a big part of this deck is this Mel card because this Mel card, when you drop it, the next turn you should be looking to empower it, or if you, it really depends, but you need to get this empowered as fast as possible, because ASAP because the biggest part is this second this line of text here is when Mel's there and she's empowered, they can't counter spells or abilities, which is very bad for decks that run Defy and a lot of counters, or are actually not really for Orange because Orange doesn't counter, it just strictly says you can't target it. But it's still fine because what you're typically looking for is getting Mel on board and having at least a rebuttal in hand. You want rebuttal in hand because when you're doing things, you always want to be hovering one. You always want to be hovering one because then you're threatening, oh, I have rebuttal. So now they have to think, oh, do you have rebuttal? And why I like mesmerize so much? It's also a one. So okay, they're it's like not my turn and it's their turn and they have choices like they can try to do something and they're fearful of the counter, so they're like, okay, instead of doing the counter, like I'm fearful of the counter spell, let me try to do something that can't be counter spelled, right? So say they try to go into the battlefield and kill the Mel. Well, I have one up, so it's a reaction speed, it's either -2 or you bounce. Now I would say if you know that Mel is vulnerable, you really should be floating two. But that's also why I run this because adding one is very strong. So if I'm only floating one and I have something on the battlefield and they come in, I have the choice to either rebuttal or mesmerize or do both if I have to. So like if I really want to save it, say it's like Quay and like I can't do anything about the way I can't like ride the wind or anything with the two, then I'll mesmerize and either -2 or bounce back. Or, there's smoke screen, there's ride the wind, and there's a lot of breakpoints at this one and two that gives you a lot of reactions on your turn. And that's the entire point, is that it's sort of like spell slinger, but you also want to focus on controlling them and then having answers for when they try to react. List is something I added recently, but yeah, so like if they come in and I bounce and they're like, oh, defy, and then I rebuttal, is it worth it? It really depends on what it is, but it doesn't train them. This is a concept I learned in fighting games, but it's also in like any games, like if you played League of Legends or anything like that. By For TCG games, it's very uh different though and unique. Whereas in League of Legends or like fighting games, there's kind of a vibe that you get. Not a vibe, I call it a vibe, but really it's the heuristics of like what you've learned. So like in fighting games, you learn don't do something like don't button mash when you stand up because it's not good. Because if somebody knows how to react to you button mashing when you stand up, you're going you're going to die. Now, if you DP immediately when you stand up, that's a reaction. You eventually learn that. But somebody that's standing over you and knows how to play, they are going to feel out if you're going to mash on wake up or if you're going to DP on wake up. And that's kind of like the heuristics of the current game. Now with TCG games, it's kind of different because a lot of people approach it and they say every single game is a building up of my previous knowledge, and like the player I'm going against is like a hypothetical robot machine that is going to play the most efficient game ever possible, and when they don't, they're doing a wrong play, and I'm not used to that. It just seems like really, and no offense, it seems like really dense in that sense, where like um, nobody's gonna play like that, and thinking like that doesn't help anything. So like The concept I learned in One Piece is like poking. You go and you hit them for something. You don't, or it's not poking, it's magic too. You hold up all your resources, you poke them by swinging like a five, and with One Piece, the cards in hand, you can counter. So you swing, he has like eight cards in hand. Is he going to react to the five knowing I have more? So I'm trying to gain knowledge on his hand or on his current like mindset. So that's a biggest part is that there's a whole nother game going on between the people. So by knowing how people are, you can kind of react in certain ways where, I spent a bounce and a counter just to ensure that my Hui is safe. But I could just do the -2 if I wanted to. But like you might not even need to do rebuttal and you can just straight up do something like a smoke screen if you have it, if they don't have counters. And they don't have counters. So it really depends on that. But to me, this is a sense of like getting getting the intention of like how the person's playing, which is really like a micro thing. And it's probably not as important. I just kind of think way too deeply on things. So I think that's why like this blue mail is really important. You basically, when you do something, nobody can react to it. It throws a lot of people off. They have to play a different way, which is they can't counterspell it. And some decks do rely on counterspelling, but it will make cases where, say, a purple deck isn't even going to consider using hard bargain because not there's no purpose for hard bargain anymore. I've effectively killed the hard bargain card until they deal with the Mel. And if they feel it's that important, then they have to kill the Mel. And if they overcommit to the Mel, I'm going to ensure that the Mel lives. Or if I feel like it's not worth it, I'm gonna let her die because my win con is different at that point. Like if I'm at 6 points and I've brought everything back and they commit all of their resources to killing my Mel for my final push, depending on my hand state, I might just let it happen. Like I might commit a little bit, but then just let them have it because Mel's probably not that important to my entire game plan at the end. And that tells me something. It tells me that they have something in response that requires Mel not to be there. Or they're trying to ensure that I don't get the extra -1. So because when this Mel is out and you have it empowered, basically on your turn you get a -3. Now the biggest problem with this is you generally just don't use the ability unless you need it because it's hard to get her re-empowered. And I would even say don't feel obligated to like use the ability when you're about to empower a new thing because it doesn't really matter. um, you should only really use the ability when you need it, and when Mel's out, you get a -3, and that puts things that are at like say there's a Rengar on something and you're going against Master Yi, and it comes to your turn, and you have Mel out, and you just tap your thing, and then uh, you just you just Wind and Ghost the Rengar, and I mean he can't counter it. He can pump it, but if he pumps it, you can just rebuttal it, or you can like mesmerize it, and that's the whole point is that you just need to get the answers, and you kind of are just trying to strip them of. You're trying to gain advantage throughout the thing. Now, I think the integral part of this is, stack deck stupefy. Always, these are just like requirements in blue purple, as Alan said, as well as Raven Bloom, kind of just required. I feel like Fizz as a two of is just strong to have because you're able to get the spells out in the case that you need it. And typically, when you're doing that, you're either doing like a sack deck if it's there, or like a stupefy, but you can rebuttal and mesmerize. Actually, with Fizz, you can use every single spell in this deck if you want to. Which was it intentional? It was probably intentional in some way. So it's just really strong to have. I have it as a two of right now because sometimes the case to use it is kind of niche, And I feel like when I'm running blue purple, I can just run a one, like a one of. I'll get to the one of eventually. Like I think I'll hit the one of when I need it because like I can almost get down to the bottom of my deck. Um, so going from there, blue Mel, I think is that's just the champion you should go. These two are required. This is required. Starcross probably also required. I feel like Wind and Ghost is just a really strong. You should have it too. Going to the next card, Applied Researchers. Applied Researchers, 4 drop, empowered 3. Your spells cost one one energy, one power less to a minimum of one. That makes all of your one costs that take a power cost like no power. So you can just one boom, ride the wind one boom, smoke screen one boom, Starcross two, wind and ghost two. If you get two of these out, all of your spells are basically one cost. It's nice. It's good to have. It makes them try to commit to getting rid of it, but generally all I do with the applied research is leave it in base. I only really go in if it's required. Like I have to progress the game state, then I'll move in with it, or like it doesn't matter too much. Also required. So three of rebuttal, definitely needed. Now going to the next things like Quay. I read recently in the Rift Discord, people talking about Hui and like not having Moonfall, so there's no point to have like Hui really. But I think Hui is just a strong card. There's no reason to not have it in a blue deck, especially blue purple. You drop Hui, he stands, he moves. Uh, you get to filter one. You filter one and you have Fizz. It's a spell. You just play it back out. Um, you have way, you move, you filter when you ride the wind, you get 2 points in that turn, and you filter two, and he gets to come back, so you get another chance. It's just a, like insane card. Like it's insane. And you have purple, so you have ride the wind, and it's I had it as a two of, but this is just an insane card. I think it's just integral piece of it, and that's really what you're working with is like that +3 on that turn when you're doing like a unit, which can be the units that you have in here, if you have Mel out and you have this empowered Mel, you're basically +6 on Hui's move. Hui moves in and he goes up to an 11. It's he doesn't go up to an 11, but like hypothetically, he's like an 11, and that's not even considering anything else you might do, And you've already dropped the Hui, and you haven't spent anything, and Hui's already 11, and so the key pieces is researchers Sway, Mel, Sigspell, the bounce, Fizz, Ravenbloom. Like this package is kind of just blue purple in general. So I think these are always like kind of required. Oh, and this. So like that's the damn near required for blue purple in my opinion. So from there, you have the other cards, like the list. I'm testing this. The reason I consider the list is that if Mel's out and you the list, they go down another one, and that's a -3 for a tap. Really, if you have Mel Legend and the list out, -6. I mean, it's meant to. My idea when I was building it at first was to reduce things that were really big with resources that I've already set up earlier. And then when they do something like drop something that's huge on my turn, I go, oh, I'm gonna -6 that thing. And then I'm gonna I have it -6, right? And say it has 10. It's at 4 now. It's one away from getting banished. And then I just stupefy. Like I spent one, and now you're in banish range. And now when I go to banish it, oh, what are your options? I have to pump it, or I have to bounce it or something. Oh, well, what does Mel do best? Counter. So essentially my entire plan is being on a cycle of when they commit a lot, you strip them of the thing that they committed to, and you already have that, and you grow an advantage from that. And it's kind of what I learned when I was playing like Ezreal And I was watching like Alan ZQ, and then I listened to some of his interviews, and I tried to learn. I don't play nearly as much, but his intention with Ezreal was to gain slow advantages over time, and then get the answers, have the answers, and then boom. And he plays a methodical game. Like that's the point, is that he's thinking about lines, he's thinking about everything that could be, and he's getting answers. And that's really hard to pull off at any level, I think, because you it's requiring so much. Like it's going to be way easier to play Master Yi. It's going to probably be way easier to play Renekton. And Renekton feels like it would be fun too, honestly. So that's why the list is here. I think it might be good, but I'm not sure. Pack of Wonders is here because of the list, but it also is here. There's not. There is a lower cost card that you can empower that doesn't nearly cost as much as Applied Mel or this Mel. Um, I'm still using Archer, but you could play Mel, discard a card, banish the 3 cost, then bounce Mel back, play her again, discard a card, and banish the 3 cost. It's a very niche, but given like say you don't have this, and you don't have this, but you can get it to 3. I mean, yeah, it costs 5, but you have options like 5 and you get board state and you also remove them something. 5 and now they have nothing and you can just bounce it. So when they play the next thing, then you can go, okay, it's not there again. I don't know. It's weird. I feel like it's possible and it's there, but I'm still thinking about it. So Pack of Wonders tip, it's really just for the list. It's a one of because I feel like you'll find it and it's like just kind of nice to have. Dredge Up, I do kind of want this to be a 3 of. 2 to draw 1. Applied Research is out. 1 to draw 1. It has flow. It applies the flow. Applied Research is 1 to draw 1. You really need to spend another one from flow. Banish it. Draw another one. 1 to draw 1. You don't have stack deck. Fizz. Bring it back. Bottom of the deck. It's. I mean, I think it's just good to have. Archers is probably one of the more questionable things here. I think this can be replaced with any 2 drop that you want. Like if you want Tide Turner because you like Tide Turner more, then go Tide Turner. My opinion on this is when I play it, a lot of people, not a lot, like from the games that I played, they feel like it's sort of threatening when Mel is out because when he attacks, you you can you can he basically so he's a 2, he's out. Say you drop Archer, and then you drop Mel, and then the next turn you empower Mel, and now you have a -3, and say it is Master Yi, and say he has what's the fucking Poro that's basically 3, so he's like a 5, and he's hovering like 1, so he has punch first. Like, oh, your little 2 drop is gonna do nothing, right? Well, is it though? So when you attack, you can tap Mel, bring it down to not even 2 because really it's at 3, so it goes down to 1, and then it'll get the Master Yi thing. So it'll be at 1, and then it'll go to 3. Because it's a 2 base, you'll drop it down to yeah. I think it's a 2 base. No, maybe it's 1 base. I don't know. All I know is that it's 3. I could probably look it up actually. Now that I think about it, instead of being dumb. Oh my God, no. That's what I thought too. It's a 2. So when you -3 this, it goes -1. It'll go -1, and then if it's Master Yi, it'll bring it up to 0 and then 1. So it's literally at 1 with the Master Yi. You go in with Archer and you're already killing it. So it's 1 versus 2, but when you go in with Archer after he gets it, it goes back down to -1. So like I think it's niche, yes, but I feel like it's possible to play it and use it. And my only The only thing that I would replace Archer with is like Treasure Hunter or like the other portal that gives you a treasure on Conquer because this is really power hungry and sometimes you don't get the researcher fast enough and you start going under and that's the only thing I'd really replace it with. But I do like this card and I feel like I don't know I've used it like once in the case that it needed, but otherwise it's just a 2 drop and when it goes in you do pay one to -1, but it worked. Like it's not good, it's not necessarily bad, and there's definitely better choices, but I do like it, and I don't think it's like the best card. Like it's not a requirement. You can just do Tide Turner, or you can just do Treasure Hunter, and you can get power. Um, Ride the Wind kind of necessary with Way. Raven Bloom necessary. Smokescreen, you can replace this with something else. I just like the one of Smokescreen -4. It goes to -5 if Mel's on the board. It's just nice to have. Temporal Breach, it's strange. It's strange. It being hidden kind of makes it a reaction. There was one case that I played. I had it hidden, and somebody blitzcranked the thing that I was holding, and I played it from hidden and broke the blitzcrank thing. So like sometimes, yeah, but again, niche. I'm not sure. I'm really testing it. You can do it for things like, oh, that's a Rengar with punch first, temporal breach. Like okay, now it's just a Rengar. So kind of, but it being slow speed is kind of makes it a brick in your hand, but it also makes a brick that you can discard for wave if necessary. Applied research is necessary. I went over Mel a little bit. The empower for this is very easy to do. You just discard, boom, done, easy. I mean, I just feel like it's better than some people lead on, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not that good at the game. Always remember that sideboard. I'm not sure. I think these two decrees are very necessary to have in the sideboard. Um, I wouldn't put them in the main board. I don't think it's like the orange one where you really can. But this one, whoa. Gust is here. These are like my sideboard is tentative, but Gust, like it's another bounce, but like where does it fit, right? And that's the biggest thing is like where do I fit these? I had Vex in here for a while, but I don't think I'm gonna have Vex at all. This card, okay, I think it's niche. A lot of the cards are niche, so like that's why I have it in here. Turn to Dust, I think this is your gear removal piece, acceptable losses as well. I think you need both more of these. Also, I haven't updated this one, but one of these cards should be Downwell. So I might have gone down on Mel and gotten a Downwell, or I might have removed Temporal Breach and gotten a Downwell, or maybe it was Smokescreen. But essentially, I think Downwell, as I reading the Pike that performed really well reading his guide. I do think Downwell is kind of a necessary thing when you're purple because it's a potential answer to something where this entire deck you do have like hefty costs, but once you get there you're set. Like downwelling it kind of puts you back, but like consider if they've used more like oh they just played a Baron downwell. Oh wow, they play Baron again, but like you have like so much more to work with, I guess. So Downwell should definitely be in there. I also think probably have another one that's in the sideboard. I think Downwell is just a really good card. Bellows Breath, if you need to pivot more to like clearing, probably should be more Pack of Wonders if one of seems too much. Like this is all stuff that I just think could be good. I have notes down here where just going over like strengths and weaknesses. I think the strengths of this is just controlling, digging, answers, installing. It's like just purple. It's purple. It's blue purple. It's blue purple. I think another big strength is just the reduction, reduce, and I also think banishing. I think the banishing and bouncing are particularly devastating in this deck because of Mel's ability to get them to that 3 threshold unless they're being like I played against an Ornn, it wasn't really possible. I was just bouncing his stuff, and then when I went down, it was sort of like, oh my god, this guy just keeps going down. But it's like, yeah, I'm just stalling you and trying to win. I'd change my game plan. Weaknesses, it's definitely power hungry without the researcher. It depends on the pieces. Like you need those pieces. If you start losing those pieces, it becomes hard to play. I don't really have an answer for Aurora. It's like in the sideboard. You can down well, but it's not good. You can have acceptable losses in your main board. It really just depends on how you want to do it, but I haven't ran into an Aurora. And the only answer is I was thinking like this is good into Aurora because oh they drop like there's actually no Elder answer either except for reactionary bounce because they're gonna kill a piece when they drop Elder even if you're and also your your banishes I believe they're both at battlefields. Yeah. So like is Elder gonna be on the battlefield? Probably not. You're probably not gonna hit Elder with a banish. Now they might overextend, and when they do, I do think committing like what you can to banish Aurora's few monsters is the answer. Like I was when I was building this, I said what would be good against Aurora, and I was like, what if I just started banishing their monsters? Or their monsters, their creatures. I think that's a good answer. So and board wipes. I mean, yeah, you can counter the board wipe, but something like Elder picks three different locations unless you have the reactionary bounce. What are you gonna do? Reactionary bounce and the counter. So the weaknesses are, I think it has a lot of glaring weaknesses. I think it's a play style that you have to like to play, and there's probably a lot of more to build on here. And that's kind of what I'm just going on. Like something would just destroy this deck. I think aggro might just destroy this deck. I think Aurora would just destroy this deck. I think like mid range Master Yi would destroy this deck. I think a lot of things are just gonna do well into it, but I'm not talented or play enough to know exactly where the strengths are. I just know this is what I like to play, and it feels pretty good. And I feel like this is a potential way to build it, and by documenting my thoughts. Maybe somebody will look at it. I don't know. Probably won't edit it. This will probably be a really long video. So the case for Risen Altar is an interesting one. That's basically why I was like making a video because a lot of it comes down to a lot of like not game design, but like the observation of discourse in gaming and how games are played. So like Risen Altar, what do we want to do as a deck? We want to break a battlefield and protect our board and not really hold. What does empower? What does Risen Altar want you to do? Leave something there. It's nice to have as like your first one. It's either the first one is Threshold of the Gray or Risen Altar. Or I mean, all of these are strictly for like matchups. Like this one is just good to have, period, but it's also good for your opponent. This one, you have no deflect, so it's always good against them. And Risen Altar, it can be anything else. A Risen Altar, specifically, when you play Risen Altar and you're playing a deck that says it wants to empower, you give off an impression that I picked this because I'm going to try to get onto that battlefield and empower things. So, say you're going second. You go second and you get your two drop. They get their two drop. Do you think they're going to go for Risen Altar or the other thing? If the other thing is something that specifically is meant to counter you. They're gonna go for Risen Altar. So you essentially, and maybe in that case when they pick something to counter you anyways, they would never go for the other one. And this is usually the case. Like this is beneficial for me, but likely not for you. Um, but maybe the other one it doesn't necessarily counter you, but it's not like super helpful to them. Say it's like, oh, if you conquer with a mighty and you pay one, then you draw, and they have a two drop they're not going to go over there because what's the point? They're just going to go to the Risen Altar to prevent you from getting it. Now, knowing this, you kind of bait people into trying to contest this Risen Altar when in reality, you don't give a fuck about Risen Altar. I'm not going to lie. The most you can do with Risen Altar is drop a card on it and empower it for cheaper and then hope that it lives or have a plan to save it. Like I was going over. somebody like most of the time it's gonna cost more for you to use Risen Altar to empower something than otherwise, unless you already control it and on your turn you can get like a cheeky like, oh, I have 6 points and I'm holding Risen Altar. I drop applied researches and I empower it for 2, but then your applied researches dies anyways. So like, what's the, you know, the best thing you can do is like have a bunch of runes up and push into it and take it, and then empower researcher, and then get the -1 on their turn, and then when you have the -1, now you have a bunch of runes and you have a bunch of answers, and they're kind of like, oh. So I think you can change it for something else. I like it. I think it does get people to actually go to it. There's some niche cases where it's useful. Show of the World, don't pay deflect. Absolutely necessary when you're going against a deck that has a lot of deflect. You try to get them to come over here a lot, or you just start holding it, and then they're forced to interact with it. Um, Threshold of the Gray, really good. I did see like an Akali like make infinite energy with this before, and there was infinite energy for both of us, and I was like, okay, thanks. And then I just stopped their combo. So yeah, uh, I think this is just really good. You have no energy. You have a 1 cost. Boom, you can use it. So I think all in all, like the Mel list, I have some notes down here. Uh, it's the same thing. I do think you can run a graveyard retrieval spell. I think that ultimately the deck is meant to play as a stall and control. I don't know if that's mid range necessarily, but stall and control, and then once you get control of the game, start withering their resources. Like a good thing to have if there was room is like, not thousand. I mean, I've considered Thousand Eye. Thousand Eye, I would consider more than Baron because of the -3. Um, Baron, I just think it's kind of like a win more. Baron is a win more. Like you're already winning really hard if you're dropping Baron with this because you're not ramping to Baron. I think the reason people play Baron is just to cement a lead and finish out a game, and or they're Pike and they're ramping up to Baron to get it, or they're like Ezreal and they're bouncing like the treasure trove bounce. I think that's why. So like, is it necessary? No, I think Thousand Eye might be a bit better because you drop Thousand Eye, it's -3 to everything, but if Mel's on board, then it's -4, and it can break really big battlefields. Like imagine a set like a yellow set is stationed up on a battlefield and you drop Thousand Eye and it -4 is the entire battlefield. And that's not even including your Mel ability, and that's not including anything else you might have. Like if you have the list, like you're you're the point of the deck is to get them to the point where they're not able to actually defend because their cards are so low that even pumping them is not going to save them. So I think 7 cost Thousand Tail for a top end is good. Mind Splitter, just because you're playing a control deck and you're purple, Mind Splitter would be good. There's an argument for Spirit here because then you could start burning their hand when you get in control for the game, but I feel like it's just really tight to fit things. Like I think this is removable, this could be removable, and this could be removable. There's an argument for Mesmerize, but I think Mesmerize is actually really good, and there's an argument for Temporal Breach. So I think you can free up one, two, three, four, maybe 4 potential slots, and maybe drop away. I wouldn't drop any more to cost because I'm running 5 when you should be running 8, but I have cards that I could play as a 2 drop in quotations instead. Like I could still have a play. So like I still have stack deck, not stupefy really, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's typically what you want. But I also have 10 with dredge up. I can just draw one. And yeah, I mean the list and Pack of Wonders would make 12, so it's pretty up. I'm probably gonna hit a 2 drop. I'm probably gonna hit a play in my first turn, most likely. And you could, uh, it would be really risky, but you could drop Archer as well and not run any more 2 drops. That would be interesting. but I think you can remove a lot of these cards and just adjust it to how you want to play, and then you can have other cards like Graveyard Retrieval, adding higher top end, Thousand Tail, Mind Splitter, using Spirit, really just playing to that. Or you can add Spirit to the sideboard, you can add Thousand Tail to the sideboard, you can add Mind Splitter to the sideboard, stuff like that. So that's just my thoughts on it. I was just making this because I was really thinking about it a lot, and instead of writing it, I felt like I should document it with like my voice because I had been talking so much. So yeah.